Everyone is seeking happiness in some way or another, whether we call it happiness or contentment, satisfaction or peace of mind. And whether we're seeking for love or success, fame, fortune, family, freedom, pleasure, or holiness, whatever it is that we're chasing, ultimately we're chasing after happiness in some sense or another. And by chasing, we're actually postponing happiness for the future. When I have this or that, when I've accomplished this thing or gotten rid of that thing, or when I've found the right person, the right place, the right circumstances, then I'll be happy. And we can spend our entire lives like this, putting happiness off into a future that we never arrive at. And so we never find ourselves fully satisfied, fully content. But if happiness is a state of mind, then why do we keep putting it off? And if we can't find it right here, right now, then when? We often hear, and I've said this myself, that life is a journey. And a journey technically means going from one place to another, from start to finish, from beginning to end. So perhaps this wording is a little misleading, or perhaps I should find a better word, something more accurate, because although life is a constant movement, there isn't necessarily a destination, a place to arrive at. The journey is the destination. The place to arrive at is here. The time to arrive is now. And if not now, when? Because there isn't any other time. The future is only a construct of the mind. And really, there is no future outside of our imagination. And when we imagine finding contentment in the future, essentially we're putting it off indefinitely. The future is always ahead of us, and so we never quite get there. And anything we place in the future will also be just out of our reach. Now, I've talked about this before. It wasn't so long ago that I found myself in less than ideal circumstances, and it was really upsetting for me. Or I should say, I felt upset. I felt deeply disappointed, dissatisfied, depressed. Nothing was working out as I had planned, and I wasn't very hopeful about the future. I had essentially began to give up on trying to get anywhere, to change anything. I had tried that so many times before, to escape my circumstances, to accomplish this thing or that thing, and so on, and I was emotionally exhausted. So I just felt like giving up. And one of the things I had found particularly disturbing, and maybe some of you will relate to this, was that I seem to have gotten nowhere in my life, no great accomplishment, no material success, and so on. In fact, I was pretty much right back in the same place where I had started, the very same circumstances which I had tried to escape, and which, in my mind, were the cause of so much of my unhappiness. But I came to a realization that what I was ultimately searching for was contentment, peace of mind, and if I couldn't find that right here, right now, even in these seemingly undesirable circumstances, then when? Because contentment really has nothing at all to do with circumstances. It has to do with our state of mind. And I knew that if I could not be content in these circumstances, I really wouldn't be content in any, because even the most ideal circumstances, if I carried that mindset with me, that mindset of discontent, then I would be dissatisfied in any situation. There would always be something imperfect to fixate on and be dissatisfied about. So I had felt like I was going nowhere in life, but when I began to accept this, to surrender to it, I realized that it's the mind, the way of thinking and perceiving, that makes all the difference in whether we see this place as nowhere or as the now here. And the difference in wording is very subtle, but the perspective is vastly different. And the situation itself is exactly the same. All that changes is our way of interpreting it. And see, one of the things that was really driving me crazy was the fact that here I was getting older, and I kept looking back over my life and seeing that I hadn't accomplished much, nothing of great significance. And despite all my excursions, I kept winding up in the same place over and over again. I just couldn't seem to escape my circumstances. So I was in this way of thinking that I'm getting older and I haven't done anything with my life, and one day I'm going to die. And I started to look at that last part, the fact that life is only so long and one day we're going to die. So I kept thinking, one day I'm going to die, and how will I have spent this life? Or rather, I still have time, so what to do with the rest of it? What is it that I really want out of this life? And ultimately, all I really wanted was to be happy, to be content, to be at peace. And I thought, if I can't be happy right here and right now, then when? When will I ever be happy? I keep putting it off. I keep thinking that I want to be content, but here I am feeling discontent. And again, contentment has nothing at all to do with having all your circumstances work out in some particular way. Contentment means to be satisfied with whatever the circumstances happen to be, which means it's totally independent of the situation. So I realized that this is the most important thing in life as far as I was concerned, to simply become content and not to postpone it until the situation was different, because that's not how it works, but rather to completely accept and surrender to the current situation, to embrace it, to appreciate it, to be grateful for everything it has to offer. I realized that if I could become content in my present circumstances, as undesirable as they had seemed, then I would have real contentment, and not just some temporary, illusory sense of contentment based on things working out in my favor. If I could find satisfaction in what had seemed to be very unsatisfactory circumstances, then that would be real satisfaction. So I began to see my circumstances really as a great opportunity. I began to realize that it was all the imperfection, all the misfortune, all the things about my situation that I had found dissatisfactory, which now offered me the opportunity to be satisfied in spite of all that. And if I could find contentment in such unidyllic circumstances, then really I could be content anywhere. So I say all of this because we all seem to be waiting for everything to work out in a particular way before we'll allow ourselves to rest in that contentment. But that's not how it works. So if you really want to be content, to be happy in life, to be at peace within, then you have to find that in the here and now. Otherwise, you'll catch a glimpse of it here and there, but you'll never quite get a hold on it. It will always be fleeting. It will always be elusive. So the challenge, if you're up to it, is to embrace this moment as it is, including whatever the circumstances happen to be, just as they currently are, and letting go of the need for it to be anything different in order for you to be satisfied, letting go of the need for everything to be perfect before you can appreciate it, to be able to look at the situation and find value in it someplace, to find something to appreciate, to be grateful for. And there's always something. We just don't always see it, or we're too focused on all the imperfections, the flaws, what seems to be missing, what's difficult, what's broken, and so on. So it's about shifting our attention, our focus, our perspective, in order that we acknowledge those areas that we can appreciate. And again, it's not about everything needing to be perfect, but allowing everything to simply be as it is, with all of the imperfections, all of the flaws, all of the seemingly undesirable or unfortunate aspects, simply acknowledging all of it, but without any resistance. And this may take some practice. So even to have the expectation that our perspective is going to shift entirely all of a sudden or that we're going to suddenly find ourselves completely content. Even that expectation has to go, because this is about completely surrendering to the moment, and that also requires letting go of all of our expectations, because expectations, after all, require some future imagination. To expect means we're still looking to the future for something. What I'm talking about is bringing the attention to this moment right here, right now, which means letting go of anything to do with the future. So pay close attention to your thoughts, how they keep trying to pull you out of this moment toward the future. And not that you try to stop these thoughts or to get rid of them, but that you simply don't become attached to them. You don't take them seriously. You don't get carried away in them. You simply acknowledge them for what they are. Only thoughts in the mind, only imaginary. And when you notice that your attention is being pulled toward the future, or even into the past, you simply notice and then gently bring your attention back to this moment here. No resisting anything, no pushing or struggling, just noticing and then redirecting your attention. And I can tell you that everything you're looking for in terms of inner fulfillment is already here, already within you, already within this very moment. But don't take my word for it. Find out. If you find this content valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.